Warrior Sages, I would love to welcome you today to meet a good friend of mine, first of all, I have to say, what an amazing man of heart, true dedication and service to people's unfolding, to the world at large, to the freedom of our spirit. This is my good friend, Alan Cahn. And Alan is a seasoned mentor, business mentor, a seasoned life mentor, a seasoned spiritual mentor to untold thousands around the world. He has been one of the luminaries in a very powerful organization, Landmark Forum, for many years. I believe you were one of the main facilitators and leaders of that organization. And so you've touched not only many people's lives, you've actually helped a lot of leaders become who they are today. And so I welcome you today, Alan. And I know we have lots to share. And thank you so much for all the work you've done and your sharing today with us, Warrior Sages.
Sachin, it's wonderful to be known the way one would like to be known. I might have read this somewhere, don't know what book, or that some of the saints of old used to pray to be seen as other people see them, to see themselves as other people see them, to see through someone else's eyes, so that we're not just limited by our own delusional perceptions. We can include other people's delusional perceptions. And I happen to like the way you see me. Just one small thing to correct. I worked with the organization that put on the Landmark Forum, and then prior to that, the S training for 32 years. I was a senior leader there. It was founded before I got there, and I was on the design team and training other leaders, but I wouldn't say I was a main person, but I was one of many main people. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Alan, I want to go right to the heart of, you are serving on many fields, many
Yes.
adventures. I'd love to know, what are you doing? And what do you feel is the most important thing? What's going on this planet right now from your experience?
Those are several different questions.
Start with any one of them.
Very good. So when I left Landmark, I was 64. It was 6 years ago. And I had lived on a mission to transform what it is to be human for human beings, and done that as part of an organization. And it was scary to leave, because you see a bright light, it's easy to follow it. But when there's no lights, what do you do?
Yes.
And I had to create a context for my life. I knew it had something to do with service. And I made up a story that I was starting Act 3. Assume I live to 96, we'll see. Starting Act 3. And I made up that Act 3 had a theme. And the theme was all people living lives of possibility, and all conflicts resolved through communication. And I said, I will stay true to that. That will be what I do 24/7 as reliably as I can.
Yes.
It's since evolved to all hearts are full and all beings are enlightened. So when you start off acknowledging me by what I'm committed, it's like you know my mission without ever hearing it. And for me, that's a sign of whether or not we're living our mission, whether what people notice when they look at us is our ego or our mission. And obviously you can see both because you have eyes to see, and both still exist. So what I'm doing for myself is playing a game. And the game is to be as reliable as I can, to stay true to the purpose, the mission that I'm on. And then just to keep it interesting, I've added even in my dreams.
Ah, interesting.
Now, I don't even know that that's possible, but that's the game I'm playing. And that's what gets me out of bed. And that's what puts me to bed, is to keep closing the gap between expressing that mission and whatever else tickles my brain,
Yes.
whatever other brain patterns are still there that haven't been completely overridden or transformed. Yeah. And out of doing that, a coaching practice arose. I never went after clients. I bought a domain name and never built a website. And now I'm coaching individuals, couples, groups, large organizations to be mission driven and values based. And not just to have a mission or values, but to have their practices, their actions be consistent with that.
Yes.
And this morning I was coaching 3 people who from different parts of the planet. One's in Germany, one was in Belgium, one was in Issaquah, on being present. They all work at Microsoft. So Microsoft is investing in having their leaders be present and be aware of their gifts and their blind spots. Nothing to do with, the bottom line. Just, can we have our leaders be present? So I'm coaching 10 of those folks. I'm working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with some people in Africa who are involved in the health arena, the country head. I'm working with a hospice organization, coaching a few of their leaders. I work with 2 different consulting companies. One is called the Henley Leadership Group, and the other is called the Granger Network. And I also have clients who just come to Cahn Consulting. I design workshops. Tomorrow I'm leading a small workshop for somebody, 4 people, 5. One's in Uganda, 2 are in your city, Vancouver, another's in Washington, D.C., and the 5th is an East German who happens to live in Nashville now. And it's the 4th module of a 4-module money clinic on transforming your relationship to money so that you have one that you've created rather than one you inherited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then lastly, if people haven't nodded away yet, my wife and I we had several vacations planned this year, but none of them happened, at least not to where we thought we were going. And so we bought a book in March.
Yes.
Called How to Train a Wild Elephant. And if I could give a plug to that book, I will. It's written by Jan Chosen Bays. She's a Zen monk teacher and a doctor, and 52 chapters. And every chapter is another practice you can do for a week to be present, to be mindful. So my wife and I are doing that together. We're also in a course led by Pema Chodron on dealing with, what was the term she calls it? I would call it uncertainty, but it's really about dealing with the unpredictability of life and being able to be in that moment. And that's new for me, Sachin. For a long time, I thought I had learned everything that I needed to learn.
Yes.
My job was to teach.
Yes.
And this past year I went, no, my job is to study what other people have learned and to teach. So it's nice to be a student again.
That's wonderful.
Now,
yes.
What's happening in the world is, I don't know the answer. I mean, I know what I read. And I know that for each of us, whatever's going on can either be an opportunity for our growth or an opportunity for us to contract. And I believe we have that right now. I know there are some people I tell people I swim at the shallow end of the pool. I play with some people who swim at the deep end, and some very deep thinkers feel like this is a real moment of positivity, and that these are the last gasps of a dying era.
Yes.
I don't know that that's true. Time will tell. But I do know that it's an opportunity for us to experience our connection to each other, look at how we can contribute to each other, and what we can do to make the world a better place to live.
Beautiful. There's always an advantage that we can draw upon. Whether it's there or not is not the point. It's what are we going to make out of it? What are we going to create, craft, at least starting in our consciousness and then working its way out to the everyday nuts and bolts of reality.
Yeah. I had the privilege of living in a Zen monastery when I was 22, Satya, and it was a sort of tradition where they use the sticks to hit you when you start to nod. So there
okay,
you
so
are.
that explains a lot now. Okay,
exactly. So there you are. Look 18 inches from a white wall, sitting cross-legged with your legs hurting you, nodding, somebody hitting you, and you thank them for hitting you. And I tell people that if I can get value out of that, I can create value out of any situation. So that was such a good thing to have at age 22.
For those of you who don't know, in certain schools of Zen, there's a meditation practice, and you're in some form of meditative contemplation, and there's a holder of the presence, if you will, that walks around with a wooden sword. And if you're drifting or they catch that somehow you're not in your full presence in your meditation, they come and they bow in front of you, you bow to them out of mutual respect, and then they proceed to whack you
3 times on each shoulder. You go this way, and then you go that way, and then you thank them. It worked. It worked.
Yeah, it worked. And you know what? Unfortunately, we can't us Zen masters can't get away with that type of stuff nowadays. We can't get away with anything, which is really good, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I think gentler approaches are better for the nervous system, for sure.
What's your feeling, my friend, on just that topic?
Yeah.
We were just chatting before we came on here live. We're seeing we're in leadership. We've all had our light and dark aspects. So we're clean, not so clean, egoic, pure, as you said, mission-driven or egoic-based drives. We're seeing a lot of gurus falling. We're seeing a lot of leaders, being exposed for all types of indecencies, all types of things, from money to sex to power scandals. What's your thought on that, and where are we moving?
Yeah. Again, I'm at the shallow end of the pool. I never know where we're moving towards. I always know where we are, how deep it is right here. Yeah. So I don't know where we're headed. I'm curious. But I know if I do my best in this moment, I will wind up in the next moment, and then I'll find out where we're headed, right? I'm a little older than you, maybe a lot, but in the 60s, many teachers, gurus, spiritual guides from the East came to the United States and found fertile ground. And I was initiated into several different Sufi order. The one when he was 7, they called him the perfect master. He started the Divine Light Mission, a Kabbalistic group, a mystical Christian group. I was a lay minister, so initiated into many different paths. And subsequent to my initiations, many of those folks were exposed as having faults. Let's just leave it at that. People can fill in the blanks. You named them: money, sex, power, having faults. And I know I grew from being around each one of them, because for me, my explanation, the act of surrendering one's ego can only lead to growth as long as you're not doing harm. But, I was such an arrogant, my wiring is so arrogant. And to be able to surrender how I see it and accept someone else's, whether it's true or false, allowed me to break some of the ties to my own mental activity and beliefs and be more present to just, oh, there's one view, there's another view. So that's about, can you grow from being around a teacher who has faults? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, regarding faults, we all have them. And unfortunately, if one hasn't done enough work on one's own ego and one has some real spiritual powers, they sometimes use them to other people's disadvantage, other people's detriment. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that's ever happened, but we all know that leaders, whether it's in the spiritual realm, the political realm, the business realm, you get money, you get power, and you need to have more discipline to not let that take you away from your mission. So I don't think, and I don't know it, but I don't think most of those teachers were out to be charlatans or to be false teachers. I just think they fell prey to the power that they got and then weren't responsible.
So that brings us to today. Many of us here, warrior sages, we're in leadership positions.
Yeah.
How do we deal with those particular areas within our own self?
Yeah.
How do we purify them, strengthen them?
I know for me, Sachin, I don't know your approach, but I know for me, I'm past the stage of thinking that I can rely on myself all the time. So I have, going to count at least 5 regular calls every week or every other week with different people. And the term that Carrie Granger uses is accountability buddy. So there's no agenda other than to check in and allow someone else to point out what you might not be seeing.
Yes.
And for me, that's essential.
Yes.
In the Buddhist, I take refuge in the Sangha, having a community of people who are like-minded and like-purpose. And, perhaps that was the problem with some of these gurus. Maybe they thought they outgrew their need for having, they thought they were at a top rather than they're still part of a community. And they stopped being accountable to the community and just trusted their own, the capacity for self-deception is enormous for us.
And it gets even more powerful with more power.
Yeah, because then you see all the good things that are happening and you turn, oh no, that it's easy to ignore.
In the I Ching, it talks about the superior man or the royal being left in their own castle becomes spoiled by their own self-reflection.
I think that says the whole thing. That says the whole thing.
It's very important to have wise counsel around you, mentors, peers that you respect, that you have a clean communication with, and that you have enough trust in each other to share the good, bad, and the ugly, and the ecstatic, the whole realm.
Sachin, I'm reminded to the day that we met. We were on a mutual friend, Anurag. He was a guest here a while back. We were on his back deck, and we had spent a few days, and you came. I had never met you. I had heard your name. You came with a woman, I think, who still works. You were driving from one place to another. You stopped by, and you sat in the circle, and within 20 minutes, you gave yourself permission to say, hey, there's a lot of male energy here. I don't hear that receptiveness. I hear a lot of, and I went, who is this masked man? Who is this guy who just came? But I knew I could tell from where you were speaking that you were seeing something that we weren't seeing. So rather than argue, I went, okay, let me look at it through his eyes. And yeah, you were right. And, that whole thing evaporated. It, took a little while, but it all evaporated because there were things that you could see that at that moment we weren't seeing. And we all didn't listen. If you get wisdom, the tendency is to speak rather than listen anymore. Because you think you have something that can be a contribution, and you do, but that doesn't mean that we stop listening and being open to what we don't see ourselves.
My friend, in our warrior sage philosophy, we have the representation of wisdom as a square. It's four walls of a castle. Good. One wall is be a mentor to others.
Good.
Right? Serve, learn, teach, whatever you know. The other wall, the opposite wall to that is have mentors always. So you always have to be an open channel to receive and teach and give both. And then one wall, the other wall is Sangha, as you said. Have a community of like-minded conscious peers so that you can jam with, that we hold each other as accountability buddies. Right?
Accountability buddy.
Accountability buddy. And the last one is be self-learning determination. Go study, cross-train. Don't just stay in one system, one methodology. Try different martial arts, different philosophers, different oppositional views, explore them, feel what's the truth that they're expressing so that it widens your wisdom field.
I endorse that 100%. And I notice, Sachin, and this is what, keeps you, I think, continuing to grow in your reach and in your depth, both horizontally and vertically. So wider groups and deeper wisdom is, I notice you embodying all four. When I, follow the community, you'll post something and someone else will say something and you'll actually consider, you won't go, oh, well, where'd they come off saying that? Well, let me look at that, brother. Let me look at that, sister. And so you've continued to not let it go to your head, all the attainment that you have. And again, that, I think we're attracted to each other because we see a brother, although a different expression, we see us adhering to similar truths, including that early wisdom path that we both were exposed to that I did before I did anything.
Share about that. That was awesome.
I mean, I was 21, so I did it in 1971.
Wow.
An enlightenment intensive with who's Burns, Stuart Burns.
Charles
Burner.
Was it the founder himself, Charles Burner?
No. Okay. No, it wasn't Charles. There was Stuart led one and someone else led another. But again, back in 71 and, a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, off in a wonderful house in the woods somewhere where you just sit opposite someone and they say, tell me who you are. And you talk till a bell rings and then you say, tell me who you are. And then a bell rings and they say, tell me who you are. And after 40 minutes, 2 bells ring and you bow and get another partner and tell me who you are and keep going. And there's a master teacher, something they call a master teacher there. And when you have a real experience of enlightenment, of who you are other than what your brain can generate, you go meet with them and they test you. And then they give you, if you pass the test, they give you another question. I think it was, tell me what you are.
That's correct. Very correct. Great memory. That's an awesome initiation into the path of truth, right?
So, I don't know where Charles got it from, but I heard Ramana Maharshi had that as a meditation.
So it's the foundational meditation, ancient yogic meditation of vichara. to
Vichara.
inquire about the truths of life. It's called to vichar, vichar, meaning you are in open contemplation. You're not starting with the truth. You're in open contemplation
Yes.
with truth, like in a searchless beholding with it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then,
so powerful.
but
You
then
know,
what happened was Charles Berner, Yogeshwar, he combined it with the dyad process. So
yes.
two beings sitting and offering each other in a formal communication
Yes.
meditation process. And the whole idea behind that was the speeding of the de-identification until you get to self.
You know, it's interesting. Over the last 5 years, 6 years, I've done 3 10-day Vipassana retreats. And each time I do it, I went, it's enormously powerful, but I keep thinking of ways they could improve if they didn't just do the traditional approach, if they combine some of our Western awareness of how learning and growth takes place. But, it is what it is, and it works perfectly, right?
We're in a time of rapid evolution in
Totally.
consciousness. And I think what we're up to is meeting the needs of the thirst for deepening of our consciousness.
Yes.
There was a time when wisdom was enshrined as a primary value for society. Now it's poo-pooed, made fun of. It's not cool to be deep. It's not. So the moment we have dethroned wisdom, then we have enshrined some other form of golden calf,
Yes.
whether that be power, intelligence, money, some type of popularity game. But I'd love you to speak about the return to wisdom. And
Yeah. My own view of that one is a little bit different. When I was in a mystical Christian teaching and service order, and studied the words of Jesus. And in the New Testament, there's nothing that's hidden, nothing hidden shall not be revealed. So in my view, there was a hierarchical approach in the past to attaining wisdom. You had to earn the right.
yes,
And now there's a democratization of a turn. Now, some may say it's watered down, but now it's more accessible to all of us, that all of us can have access to what you had to prove you were worthy of receiving years ago or centuries ago. But
yes.
now you can get it in a YouTube video. And yes, does it have lasting impact? Probably not, but it never did. It was always about the integration of that transformation that was where the real power lay, not in the experience itself. Getting fascinated with our enlightenment
It
experiences.
was never about, back then, it was never about the knowledge. It was always about the knowing.
The knowing, yes.
And the
Yeah.
knowing comes from the direct experience that one is having with reality.
Yeah. And now for me, it's about the living of it.
Yes.
Are you seeking an experience, or are you attempting to alter your actions moment by moment so they're a reflection of some higher purpose, some mission, something that has to do with what we can contribute rather than what we can get?
Beautiful.
We're all part of this large family, right? Called humanity. None of us exist independent of humanity. So therefore, it seems to me obvious that if you're going to thrive, you have to look at what you can contribute to that which you are a part of, not what you can get from that which you are a part of. And people who find a mission or a purpose or a calling or simply living karma yoga of certainly service, it's those folks are the folks who are thriving with a certain other levels of learning because their lives are in tune with the universe, which is what can you contribute rather than what can you get.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, one more thing, just to quote one more teacher of mine who's passed on. His name was Reb Zalman Schachter. He started a form of Judaism called Jewish Renewal. He was trained as a Hasidic rabbi.
Oh.
And in the 60s, when all the Jews were leaving Judaism to take drugs and study Eastern religions, he decided to follow them and started a community in California called the Aquarian Minyan. And he started ordaining rabbis. And he would only ordain rabbis if A, they had studied another religion in addition to Judaism. It was an echo of what you said earlier, and could talk about the truth using a different idiom than Judaism, so they weren't so attached to this is the right way.
Wow.
And two, he wouldn't ordain them. I can say this about him because he's no longer alive. He wouldn't ordain them unless they took LSD, because he said you really can't lead people to God unless your mind has been blown.
Absolutely.
You would have loved him. There's a book that's written about him and the Dalai Lama, and it's called The Jew in the Lotus. Not the jewel in the lotus, but the Jew. And the Dalai Lama wanted to meet with Zalman, Reb Zalman, to find out how did the Jews continue their tradition without having a land. And Reb Zalman wanted to meet with the Dalai Lama to find out how did you keep the teachings so true to the original so they were still alive today. So they had this dialogue, and it's called The Jewel in the Lotus. It was turned into a movie. It's fascinating.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alan, as leaders right now,
yes,
the world, as as we see, has got very interesting opportunities that are present right now.
Yes.
How can us leaders meet the needs and the calling of this time?
Yeah. I think it goes back to what I said. We have to listen. I think, my male, arrogant approach has come up with the answer, as opposed to be a clearing in which the answer will show up, will arise. And I don't think it's the same for each of us. I was calling people for 3 Saturdays in Florida to get out to vote. I was calling Black, brown, and older white women in Florida to get out to vote. Because, I think the current president of the United States is doing great harm. Great harm. I'm not saying his rival is any great leader himself, but he certainly, in my view, won't do the same harm. And I said, if I just wait to see how people vote, that would be a misuse of my energy. Since I've got a preference, do something to support that preference. So I think us leaders, if we have a vision of how the world could be, not should be, but how the world could be, don't just have that vision, but take action. For me, money is a way to contribute. It's a way to contribute. So my wife and I, every year, we say what % of our income we'll give to causes that we are out to make the world the way we want to see it. And this last year we were up to 20%. We're fortunate we can do that. Our children are grown. We saved. We got the means to do that. But this year we'll have the means to do even more. So for me, I think leaders have a sense of what could be. And if we just have the sense and we're not seeing what role can we play in bringing that about, then prayer without action, a vision without action is a pipe dream. And what I say, action without vision is a nightmare. So you want to combine the two, but it's not for me to tell anybody else what they should do other than take action that makes that vision you have of what could be more real, more real. And if you don't have the skills that you need to do that, then get the skills that you need so that you can do that.
Yes.
Period. And there's plenty of us who are willing to coach our younger brothers and sisters with the skills for how to articulate a vision, how to mobilize people around it, how to work together in a collective fashion rather than a hierarchical fashion. The person for me who I respect a lot is a man named Otto Sharma. Have you been exposed to his work?
No.
It's called Theory U, the letter U. And it's a leading from the future as it emerges, leading with an open mind, an open heart, an open will, the social technology of presencing. And he looks at transformation on a personal level, on an organizational level, and on a societal level. And he's the one who, his belief is we're on the verge of something really positive, yes. But this is just an old age that's making its last grasp for survival. Yes. And we have to keep looking forward and up rather than backward and down. Very, very wise man, talented man, and I recommend reading his work.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
You said today on the onset, the game that you're playing.
Yes.
And I'd love you to share about this whole philosophy of seeing your experiences through the lens of a game.
Yeah. Well, this came directly out of the work I did at Landmark and Est. The bottom line of those teachings, of those programs, is life is empty and meaningless. And it's empty and meaningless that it's empty and meaningless. Meaning we humans add the meaning to everything. And the meaning's made up. And so for me, maybe it's bhakti, maybe I'm a bhakti yogi. There's a real joy when one's playing a game. And I remembered as a kid, you and I made things up. We played make-believe.
Yes.
And then we'd play wholeheartedly. And if we won or lost, it didn't matter for long, because then we played another game. And, I remember I would get off the school bus, the yellow school bus, and it was 3 blocks from my house. And I would pretend that I was Superman and that I had a cape on, and I would run and jump and think I was flying. And the name of the game was get to the corner before the school bus did. And if I won, I was Superman. And if the bus won, I was dead. And then I played again. And, you're so fully alive when you're playing a game. And then as we get older, we lose that playfulness.
Yes.
Everything becomes work as we get older. Everything. There's spiritual work.
Yes.
There's your work. There's working on your relationship. There's housework. I mean, back when we were kids, exercising was called playing, and now it's called working out. So for me, it's about how to turn all those different aspects of being alive into a game. And games have rules. and outcomes. And you play wholeheartedly, and you play to win. And if you win, you win. And if you lose, you lose. You're not attached, but you play, so my wife and I, there was a time when our relationship got a little bit boring. And we made up a game. This year is going to be the most passionate, romantic, and intimate year of our relationship. And we made it up and we won. So we repeated that over and over again because that's a good game to keep playing.
Great game to play. Yeah.
And now we're 41 years in and still making up games. So for me, life is a game. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. There are certain rules, and the game I'm playing with my life is to be reliable for living my calling 24/7. And some days are better than others.
Yeah. What's in your heart to share, Alan?
What's there is just unbounded love and appreciation for people who are listening. I think it's possible to turn any situation into an opportunity to contribute or to learn or to make amends. Nothing is final. So if you're in a bad phase right now, all phases have beginning, middles, and ends. And the worst thing you could do with any phase that you're in, good or challenging, is to get attached to it. To see the phase you're in and, okay, what does the universe want from me how does the universe want me to contribute and participate now? Our brains think we're the center of the universe. Yeah, we look outward and we're in the center. So it's a seductive illusion. You and I are not the center. Put something powerful, something bright in the center of the universe and revolve around that and serve that. And that's what there is to share.
Brother, elder brother, heart brother, soul brother, I'm so grateful for who you are, the impact you make, the sharing. You're an inspiration to me. And our friendship is just a golden one. We're in a very timeless place every time.
I was just going to say, it's so timeless. It's like you and I could have been together in Denver, in Boulder, just yesterday, and we would have, it's just like that.
Many lifetimes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you're doing. My love to your entire family. Is just your wife at home with you, or is your son there too? Or
son is home here, as well as Caroline, my colleague.
Yes. And your daughter is off in Eastern Toronto.
She's on the east side. She's in Toronto, so she's well as well.
Okay, good.
And much love to your family as well.
Okay.
And we're sages. Thank you for checking in today. Right. So rich. You know what to do from here.
Ciao.
Bless.